Yeah.
It makes you feel any better. Most of us Americans don't understand what Canadian Thanksgiving is.
Hey, Corey.
That's what I said.
Johnny was like, never heard of it. I actually only know because I have a Canadian.
Johnny, do you know what it means?
I don't know what it means. No. So
do you know they had one? Is it any different than our Thanksgiving? Why is it on a different day?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as our Thanksgiving. It's like
we shouldn't shame Canadians for their Thanksgiving anymore because we're now live on YouTube.
I'm just saying I'm ignorant. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe during Q&A, somebody can ask what Canadian Thanksgiving is, and we can get an explanation.
Well played.
Cool. I'll give everyone just a few minutes to still log in and before we kick off. So just bear with me for 1 minute.
Hey guys, how is my audio? Do you hear me well?
It's wonderful.
Great.
Silky smooth.
All right. So I think we're going to have a very short town hall today, everyone. This is our 44th town hall. So without further ado, let's just quickly get started. First up, we have a POPs update with JB. JB?
Hey everyone. So yeah, really quick update. After Istanbul, we decided to start up a Discord for everyone to join if they wanted to and try a different communication platform for Q4. Seems like it's going pretty well. So most people seem to have joined and finding it useful. And Jacob bridged a lot of the channels, which is awesome. Question that we wanted to open up for feedback since we've had a few people ping us. Should we open up the Discord completely and allow all community members and contributors to join? So far, we left it just to core contributors. Listed a bunch of the different pros and cons of doing so here, but would really love people to just join the discuss thread on the Discord and just post whether you think it's a good or a bad idea. Since we have now people asking if they can join the Discord. So yeah, please take a look at the notes and leave some feedback in the discuss post if you can. That'd be great.
Cool. Thanks, JB. All right. Jumping next, we have a core update. I believe Rachel is taking this.
Yep.
Hey.
So we made really good progress in the last 2 weeks. First of all, we completed the status React audit scope about 10 days ago with 2 bonus items included. So in the last town hall, we mentioned that work was in progress on biometric login. That's the first bonus item, which was merged by Andre last week and should make our user base very happy because it has been a long-standing request of theirs. But that work also forced us to reconsider the entire unlock flow for the app, which led us to review how our users' key is stored and encrypted. And it turns out that we weren't really setting ourselves up well for a future where we derive the encryption keys from the seed phrase rather than the user password, which is a more secure move that we eventually would like to make. So in addition to merging biometric, we also began to store the encryption key at the extended path, which is compatible with EIP 1581. And that means that in the future, we'll be able to make further changes to improve security without forcing users to take any action there. So that was done by Andrea Piana, and the team came together very quickly on a decision there. So great work on that, guys. As for the V1 scope itself, you can follow our progress on the discuss post that I've linked within the slide. But the top line is that we've already closed out around 20% of the issues on that backlog, a little bit more than in fact, and that includes 2 important features. So the option to select which wallet you use when you interact with the browser, and also the account settings for each wallet within your account explorer. And additionally, there's been really great progress on ENS, more onboarding work has been merged, et cetera, et cetera. I did want to call attention to 2 key decisions that are happening with regards to the scope of V1. The first is that we've decided to include the underlying work for re-enabling chat commands again. We decided it's very important that we're able to quote unquote grassroots onboard users by sending them SNT directly when V1 goes live. So therefore we need to bring chat commands back. And the reason that chat commands are currently disabled is just because they weren't technically compatible with multi-account. So we'll change that. That will be included in V1. Additionally, we're considering a move to drop push notifications entirely from V1. The reason for this is that they're very buggy and are an imperfect solution anyway. They rely on Google's centralized Firebase service. So are against our principles in some ways, don't really live up to the initial vision for push notifications as a decentralized service. So there's a discuss post from Eric, which is very thought-provoking. I think there's more research to be done before we make the final call there, but it's looking like we will cut the push notification bugs from our V1 backlog and simply disable them instead. So if you have feedback on that, please either jump in on the V1 post or the push notification post. We'd be happy to hear from you. And that's it from core. Thanks.
Cool, thanks, Rachel. Exciting stuff. Next up, we have a security and infra update, and I believe Corey's going first.
Yeah, buddy. So Trail of Bits version 1 audit continues, moves ahead nicely. This week, we get updates every Friday as a recap of how the week went with the security engineers at Trail of Bits. This week went quite well. We had no issues that were above low or informational. And so basically just more like informational bookkeeping, trying to figure out lay of the land for the rest of the audit. PRs are being reviewed from the initial week that are being merged back into status. So we're fixing the things that they're giving us, and they're not coming up so far with anything severe or critical, which means that the more that happens, the less likely the release gets pushed back, which is what we want. Also, we have some interviews coming up this week for the new junior security engineer who will sit in between me and Jacob. So sit in between security infrastructure. This is a hire that helps push for the concept of the DevSecOps idea of organization that we're trying to move towards, which is a unification of development or of the kind of developer operations and security operations. So sitting in between or melding of security infrastructure, which is something we already do. We're just kind of doubling down on that. If you want more information on that, head over to the discuss post there. And I'm also in the process of creating a bunch of diagrams on how the protocol works, which helps us visualize and aid in understanding of how things are put together. So if you're curious on how we use Whisper messages and then encrypt inside those Whisper messages, you can check these things out. Or and these should also help with me and the audit people who moving forward to figure out where vulnerabilities may lie. Click on those. Comments are welcome. If things are kind of hard to understand or so on and so forth, please let me know. That's the whole goal of them, is to make it easier to understand what we're doing on the back end to make status work. And that's it for me.
All right, thanks, Corey. All right, now Jakob.
Oh yeah, I think that's me. So from the point of view of community, the main thing that happened was we have a new way of running mail servers, and you can read about that in the mail server markdown file and status go. Although I will probably be opening a discuss post about renaming mail servers to something like history nodes, because mail server just has weird connotations with legacy protocols, so it doesn't fit at all. Other than that, we have other organizations added to SourceGrid, which is a software for essentially analyzing amounts of contributors and their work put into different organizations in GitHub, and you can look it up on SourceGrid/IM. We've also dropped the LES fleet and also removing the fleet from selection in status, because it was essentially just an experimental project that left some craft in the code base. There's been a bunch of upgrades in order to improve monitoring, and mostly in Elasticsearch and Kibana. Hopefully that will allow us in the future to expose usage metrics for Whisper topics, or at least just precise metrics on how many users we have. And we've also upgraded to Xcode 11.1, and we're still fixing macOS for that. There's also more metrics from status go now available through the /metrics endpoint, which was introduced in GEF 1.9, I believe. We just added that. It wasn't when we merged. Oh, and nice thing, we have PDFs exports from node status.im before they were broken. And actually, if you try to export, it would crash node status.im. So not very nice. That's about it.
Cool. All right, thanks, guys. Jumping next, we have a liquid funding update with Carrie. Carrie? Oh no, I think she dropped off the call. We can come back to liquid funding once Carrie Jones comes back onto the call. So let's now go to NIM update. Zachary?
Hi. First
Hi.
of all, I'll share you our progress since the Istanbul meeting. The most important news, most noteworthy is that Dmitry is progressing very nicely on our natively P2P implementation. We've merged the first version of the code into the master branch of P2P, and we are now looking forward to integrating it into our beacon node.
That second one was introduced by me. I can cover it later.
All right. And the other news is that at DevCon, we got a lot of opportunities to speak to the other implementations team, to the Ethereum Foundation, and I'll share you some of our goals that came up out of these meetings. As a very initial goal, as a short-term goal, we'll be aiming to launch a testnet with a real Ethereum 1 validator contract running in the Goerli testnet. In this next testnet, initially we will probably start with Nimbus and Lighthouse again, but we expect other clients to be able to join, and it will be available to the general public as well. You can stay tuned for more updates on the Nimbus blog, where we post something as soon as we are ready. And then the other main focus for the next 6 months, this is our long-term goal, is to ship production-ready phase 0 on mainnet. And to this end, we've prepared a very detailed roadmap that tries to outline all of the components and tasks that we will have to go through. The roadmap is going to be, it's already published, but it's going to be refined in the following weeks. If anyone is curious, you can see the link on this slide. I guess we'll need to interact soon with the infrastructure team on some of the tasks, and perhaps even with the marketing team on some of the other tasks. Expect to see more, to hear more from us soon. And that's it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so regarding the progress on Status Protocol Go, as part of the effort to bring Nimbus to the Status app, I refactored the Status Protocol Go project in order to create an abstraction with a facade that currently is implemented by Go Ethereum, by Status Go. And the next phase will be to create a Nimbus implementation of that facade. And that has started this week. So that's it.
Cool. Thanks, guys. All right, now let's go to Johnny with a marketing update. Johnny.
So it's less of a marketing update and more of an initiative that we're running. So in an attempt to become a bit more community-driven and community-governed, as well as introduce some further SNT into the network itself, or SNT utility into the network, we're working on a series of community governance proposals. So working with Barry to figure out the best platform and way forward. But for now, I'll just dive into this. So what we want to propose right now is implementation of Fathom. Fathom is a privacy-preserving analytics tool. It's much different from Google Analytics in the fact that it doesn't implement any sort of cookie tracking, and it's really intended to obtain only high-level information about page views, content views, bounce rates, and average time spent on site. So, with V1, with V1 coming and significant marketing push, I wanted to propose this tool ahead of that, just so we can actually monitor content performance. So there's a detailed proposal in Discuss. So everyone please take a look and we can move forward. So at a high level, once again, Fathom collects top pages, top refers, bounce rates, and average time spent on site. We will be using it primarily just to measure site visits to web pages, content performance, clicks over a period of time, And then through this, we can actually infer more about our audience through where they're coming from, so site traffic. And then the other thing that it will allow us to do is create incentive programs for various content creators and partnerships or sponsorships that we have lined up. We can create custom landing pages for these partners, and then incentivize them through traffic that they drive. So how this is going to work is similar to how some of the other projects do it. We're modeling kind of after Maker. We'll have a community governance call next week where we'll walk through the proposal, answer any questions people have, really deep dive into the pros and cons of it. And then it'll allow us, allow everyone to ensure they have S&T in their wallet to prepare for the vote. And then Monday, October 28th, for that week, the vote will commence in the S&T voting DApp. We're using the S&T voting DApp for this first proposal, just because it's available to us, while we look for more suitable, maybe long-term tools and services. More to come on that. But yeah, please get involved, read through the discuss post, post questions. And there's a pros and cons list in that discuss post. I guess the con here is really, do we want to implement analytics on our marketing sites at all? It could be perceived as a violation of our principles, but I personally don't think it is. But yeah, jump in, let us know what you think, and then we'll move forward. I guess last thing to note is this will absolutely not be involved in any sort of in the app at all. This is only for marketing sites, and we won't and never will implement analytics in the app. So there's a clear distinction to be made there.
Cool, awesome. Thanks, Johnny. Okay, next up we have just one swarm update, and it is with Ricardo on utopic democracy.
Hi.
Hi.
A long time since the last town hall that I presented this. So there are two main improvements. One was about the type of the proposals. So first of all, we just have these execution proposals that was for in-chain, like when you need some execution on the blockchain, some decision to be made in a smart contract. Now the proposals, we have also elections and pools. The elections would be to create a ranking that can be in-chain or off-chain. The pools would be a chat only, so totally off-chain. So these topic pools would be like proposals, but they only exist on this chat layer. So in top of Whisper. These pools, they don't cause any in-chain consequences. Therefore, there is no reason to process them inside blockchain. But it would be technically possible because they are signed by the people. These topic pools, they happen inside of public chats. So anyone would be able to start a pool. For example, you are in status core, then you want to make any type of pool, just like in Twitter, or voting in a pool that someone made. Opening a pool would be just like sending a message questioning, and voting would be just like answering, like my vote for proposal X is Y. So, and the voting uses the delegation. So in V1, we are going to have this separation from wallet and chat key. So what we have to do to solve that is that the wallet will delegate to the chat key, but it doesn't have to be the own user chat key. It can be other person chat key. Anyone can retrieve this history of messages. So anyone can calculate and verify the results, even if there is no in-chain. For example, if you go to a chat and load the history of the past 1 month, you could just feel the sentiment of the people. So that's how it works. It's basically more social, and it's intended for example, we are going to have this community governance that marketing just proposed, and we don't want people to paying for guests to be voting in things that doesn't have any consequences. Another thing that I think is really interesting is about these delegations that we have, for example, status channel that going to have pools, and then we could have the sub chat that is status minus design that would be a subtopic of status. So in this idea of topic democracy, you can have these subdelegations. So if you don't define a delegate in status design, but define it in status, then it would use from status, from this topic, root topic. Currently, we have blockers for making this possible. So the blockers are, for example, for the preview one, the extensions that would be used for making these fancy chat messages that can have buttons and to vote is a bit limited. And so we would need some features around the control of the signature. The extensions in V1 are not yet implemented. So even if it worked for preview one, for V1, we need extensions. And also to make it as a DApp, for example, in the browser, the DApp doesn't have access to the chat key and cannot broadcast to the status network. So there is these blockers that we need to figure out to be able to implement it. But overall, I'm working in this proof of concept of topic pools that it's just these opinions from the community. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, nice stuff, Ricardo. All right, now we're just going to jump back to Carrie. She's back on the call, so bear with me while I go back to funding. Okay, here we are. All right, Carrie, do you want to quickly touch on this?
Sure. Apologies, my connection is not great, so if you don't hear me, I will try and keep this brief. I believe not many people are here today from the team, so I'll give this update. Essentially, Liquid Funding is very nearly ready to launch, and there's really no major blocking issues on the user experience side of things. What we've been working on is the withdrawal flow and also looking at a proxy contract that basically exchanges whichever tokens the funder has in their wallet for whichever funds the project owners are looking for. So in the next week, the big discussion will be the launch plan. And whether we do a pilot launch, very limited basis with ambassadors and core contributors, or do something a bit wider. You can see the meeting notes in this slide, and there's also a meeting on the calendar. And that's it. Yeah, please feel free to join in if you like, and we have a channel on Discord. Yep, that's it.
Cool, thanks, Carrie. All right, so that concludes our town hall today. Does anybody on the call have any questions that they would like to ask? If not, we can end things early, and that will be the end of our town hall today. So thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the following week.
Nice work, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, Johnny.